Hello, everybody. Hey, welcome to the Mental Health Matters with Marty show. We are so glad that you are joining us tonight. Listen, you're going to be in for a store and a treat tonight because I am self-produced. My producer is trying to get on here, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so dependent upon him. But listen, we are so glad. Let us know you're listening. Who's out there? We have an exciting show for you tonight. I'm so glad to have some of my dear, close friends with me as we are continuing this discussion on child abuse prevention. April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and we want to definitely continue the conversations as we have with that. But let me share this with you as well. So, again, we want to remind you that the Mental Health Matters with Marty show, this show is intended to be an educational tool. We are not a substitute. Let me say that again. We are not a substitute for your mental health journey. We are a supplement and support to that. So if you're experiencing any type of psychiatric emergencies or problems, we definitely want you to go to 911, call 911, go to your urgent care or anything like that. And all of the information shared on this program tonight is, again, to assist you in your mental health journey. And I have some of the great top experts, what I like to believe, on here tonight. But we are so glad to continue this discussion about mental health. Let us know, and child abuse prevention. Let us know you're out there. Miss Cindy, what's going on? How are you, darling? From San Diego. You know we got nothing but love for you down there in the San Diego. We were talking last week, and we had an amazing discussion on with Alana Moore, and who, again, if you don't have her book, her children's book, where it's talking about ADHD is my superhero, my superpower, we definitely want you to grab that book. It is definitely one that you need to have in your arsenal as you have children. But we want to discuss and bring on the experts about discussing child abuse prevention, what it looks like, especially during this pandemic. As we know, schools are one of the number one reporters of child abuse, and we have been in homes and definitely in shelter situation for this past year. We were told we were only going home for 2 weeks, and 2 weeks turned into over 52 weeks. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know. Some days I'm not a good principal, dean of corrections. I call it dean of corrections or anything else like that. Being a school teacher, being whatever it might be, and you can now have your kids at home. And we as parents, we need to know when to say, I need some help. And guess what? We want to provide you some help tonight about everything that you're going through so that you will not continue to secretly suffer in silence in the shadow of shame. But as I always say, we want you to speak up, speak out, and live. So let's bring the experts on, y'all, because I'm so excited about bringing them on. This is not her first time on the Mental Health Matters with Marty show, but she has been with me for several times, and one of the greatest cheerleaders I know, who has got tons of experience dealing with children in the educational field and educational services. So welcome back to the Mental Health Matters with Marty show, none other than Dr. Yvette Harris. Dr. Harris, how are you?
I am absolutely wonderful, Marty. Thank you for having me here again.
Yes, how has things been going for you, and what's been new in your life? Explain to the people who you are, what your credentials are, what you do, and all that fun stuff, because I don't have banners tonight. I'm doing this on my own. So, baby, it's a self-taught night. We're going to have fun and roll with it. Who are you, darling?
So, like I said, the only license I have is a driver's license. However,
stop it.
However, I am founder and CEO of EDR Consulting Services. We provide training, coaching, and consulting in the areas of education, leadership, workforce development. But we are also NCTI certified, which means we use the National Curriculum Training and Institute evidence-based practices for parenting, substance abuse, writing bad checks,
God,
life skills, job skills. We provide those services using evidence-based curriculum, not just standards-based, but proven by evidence that if we use this curriculum and our participants participate, they will see their desired outcomes.
Awesome, awesome. Well, again, we're always glad that you're on here, always sharing your expertise, everything that you are doing, have been doing, and we're excited. Especially if we're talking about child abuse prevention. It's something that's near and dear that I know to both of our hearts with that as well. So, again, thank you for being on here, and let's bring on some of our other guests. Listen, this is not his first time, but we're so glad to have back with us. Listen, he is in Houston, House of Never. He's about to come over to my home state, which I'm so glad about. The Big O, none other than Dr. Donte. Dr. Donte Boyd. I was going to make sure. Hey, our executive producer's in the background, y'all. He done finally made it to the green room. I'm so excited. But none other than Dr. Donte Boyd. Donte, how are you, my brother?
Good. Thanks for having me back. I'm excited to be with another great doctor over here.
I'm just Marty. I ain't got no doctor. I know Dr. Seuss, but that's about it.
You don't want
to know Dr. Seuss. That's the one. No.
I know his books.
Racist. This is racist and traumatic.
Come on now. Talk about.
Okay.
That's child abuse.
Well, I can't say green. Can't you read Green Eggs and Ham no more?
Nope.
Sam I am.
Nope.
God.
You got to know what the meaning behind those words.
Y'all, ain't nobody ever told me.
Dr. Seuss and Charles Schultz. Don't get it twisted.
Okay. So my producer's in here. I'm so glad to see him. Good God, I feel better because y'all see I didn't know how to do my own intro to my own show. That was so funny. He said, 1 minute, I got you. 1 minute. Cherie, how you doing, darling? Listen, another wonderful person y'all need to know. But Dr. Boyd, tell us where you're heading since you're heading to the Big O, what you've been doing and all that good stuff.
Well, what I've been doing is doing research on families and HIV prevention here in Houston, where my research will continue to be, but moving this summer to Columbus to be a part of the faculty at the Ohio State University.
Come on, Ohio State.
Social work, the Ohio State.
The Ohio State. Man, it's always good to see you and so proud of all the amazing work that you are doing and how you continue to grow. And it's good to see men, I'll say it this way, and then the men of color in this whole field of social work, and definitely not just it, but teaching it from a collegiate perspective and helping to train future social workers, future policymakers, future those in public health and what we need, and really advocating for that. So thank you, man. Good to see you with that as well.
You're doing a great job too. Like, we need more Black mental health experts. We need people on the front lines like yourself with a big, beautiful voice and shout. Like, we need that. Like,
thank you.
You talk to young people, they don't know what a social worker is, what they actually do outside of taking your kids out of your house.
Right. So we get to change the narrative on that, and that's what's so exciting. So excited. But okay, and then I'm so excited to have for our very first time on the show. But she is such a fan, and I fell in love with Tobi a long time ago because when I was at a former place where I was the executive director of a charter school, that place still remains nameless, but I was executive director of a charter school. Stop it, Yvette. With that, and she came in and said, "Marty, I want to help your single parents at this school." And Donte, she came in, brought her whole program, gave these wonderful kids who are at risk of repeating some negative cycles. She gave them the tools to be successful. She knows in all of our communities when we're dealing with low socioeconomic and diverse childhood adverse experiences that we have, we know that food is the factor. She let them kids choose what they want. I started getting jealous. They was getting In and Out. They was getting all the top line, I said, wait a minute. Now, if you're going to do that, you're going to bring something. Marty, you're not a parent. I was like, I didn't want to be one again. But anyway, she left me here in Southern California and moved to Utah. But if I can have her back in here, I'm trying to convince her to move back to Southern Cal because we got so many cases here, but none other than Miss Tobi Long herself. Tobi, how are you, darling?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm so glad. I've been watching you do this for so long, so I'm excited to come in and actually be on this. I'm a little nervous, but I'm
Don't
excited.
be. You are so fabulous. Tobi, since this is your first time on the show, we're so excited. Tell us what your background is. I know all the great work you've done because I would shake Tobi like, Tobi, I need to write this grant. So can you help a brother out and all this? Or what's the insight on this? But Tobi, tell us what you do and all the amazing work that you are and have done.
Yeah, so a lot of my background really is several years of working with children and families, and I worked in Canada where I grew up.
Wow.
And then I grew up there, and then when I got married, I moved down to California, and I was there for 18 years. So I worked in foster care and adoption, and then I started that program that you're talking about, which is the First Five San Bernardino funded program.
Yes.
Where we were doing nurturing parenting, which is a trauma-informed parenting program, and bringing it out into the communities for young parents. Yeah, so we worked with a specific population, age 13 to 24, and we brought it to them in their communities and was able to feed them well, thanks to First Five's grant. We did budget a lot for food because we saw that as important.
It is important.
Yeah, but I fell in love with the nurturing parenting program. So when I moved, I actually maintained my status as a national recognized trainer consultant. And I'm doing that part-time here. And I just had to be doing some other work, and I work part-time in a school.
Yes. So Tobi's absolutely amazing, and I love it because you definitely have been there to help these. And did you guys hear that? Listen, I need everyone to put some names in the comment section. Get some people on the show because we are doing some amazing teaching tonight about child abuse prevention. We have experts in the field who are doing this, and this is their passion. This is all of our passion about how to really address childhood abuse, how to prevent it, and how do we support and give people the necessary tools in order to be successful. Now, Dr. Yvette, I saw your eyes when Tobi said age 13. Yes, we have some parents who are 12, 13 years old, and I love it because Tobi has this amazing passion to help train them so that we know the indicators of child abuse. Dr. Donte, you know some of the indicators we all discuss when there's repeated patterns of poverty. And come on, Dr. Donte, what are some of the other that we know of, some of the indicators of repeated childhood abuse?
So when you talk about child abuse, you got to talk about neglect.
Oh, thank you.
You have to talk about emotional abuse.
Yes.
So abuse, right? So it's not always just physical, but you have poverty, right? But then going into the child welfare system, you got racism and discrimination.
Yes.
You have to talk about, right? Which is a huge focus point right now in the system. If you've been following the debate around child welfare and how the system is racist because of cultural nuances, right? Leads to kids being placed in foster care. But you also have not just unemployment, but I think you have like outside of cultural norms, like if you get a white social worker or a clinician walk into a house and they don't see something that is familiar to them, they can write it up as abuse.
Right.
But then you get, hunger, which goes for neglect. And that usually happens more so in the hospital setting, right? When doctors or nurses or even social workers see a child come in and they haven't been eaten and they're feeding them and they see that they're hungry consistently, they'll write it up as neglect. You have different types of abuse. Emotional is the hardest one to prove.
Yes.
Especially in like conservative states. So most cases are around physical abuse or sexual abuse.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. And I'm going back to you, Tobi, because I know that this is something near and dear to your heart. And it breaks all of our hearts to see children abused, neglected, all of those things. And we talked about especially young parents. I was 23 when I had my daughter, when she was born, and I was just as crazy as a chinch on crack, just coming out. Don't laugh at me, Dr. Yvette. I had just got a degree from UC Berkeley. I didn't have a job and was trying to, I grew up in a domestic violent household, so I didn't know how to be an effective father. I was scared half to death. Because the thing I kept saying is, I don't want to be like my father, and I had to be careful about that. How do you address some of those things, Tobi, when you're in those parenting classes and you know that these children are one, scared, and they don't know how to ask for help?
Yeah, I think my mission and my passion about parenting, I really have to work with the whole family.
Yes.
So these kids are coming from these awful situations, but what we've learned with the ACEs study, which I'm passionate about, the Adverse Childhood Experiences study, what they found out, we used to hear all the time, we want to break the cycle, and we knew that existed, but the ACEs, it came the science behind it. And what they showed is that a lot of kids who had these things happening to them or had high ACE scores, you tended to see they also had parents with high ACE scores. So what we're seeing is that I have a strong thing that behavior is learned, that we do the best that we can in any given situation. But the message is we can relearn and we can build our resilience to not change the ACEs or what's happened to us, but to mitigate those and to be able to move forward and empower ourselves to make choices. So what we're seeing is these kids that are in these homes and they have parents who are really come from toxic stress backgrounds and trauma. And we're trying to support, we have to protect the kids. Safety is always first, but we also, to help kids, we have to help their parents.
That's right. That is so true. Dr. Yvette, I see you nodding your head with all of that, from the ACEs to educating parents to all of that. Talk to us.
Well, piggybacking on the ACEs, I love the ACEs.
Yes.
And what it does is, this generation, they're visual. And so to tell them that they may be dealing with something, when they take that assessment and they're able to see, and then you work off of that assessment as Tobi does, then they're able to see that, first of all, it's on a paper that wasn't just given to me. So you haven't singled me. I'm not the only one.
Yep.
And when you have children having children, then you need to bring that third generation in, which is the parent's parent, i.e. the grandparent that's 30 years old.
Right.
They need to come into the fold because they're still children mentally, emotionally. And look, no shade, but we know that boys just tend to mature a little slower. And
yes, we do.
But those teen dads who I'd like to be involved, but I'm scared and I'm supposed to be a man. I'm not supposed to ask for help, and I definitely am not supposed to cry, but I am scared. But bringing them into the fold with their parents and getting everybody involved, that is truly one of the only ways to break the cycle.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Dr. Donte, talk to us some more what you have, some of the things that you're teaching, because you're definitely dealing with, I love the point you made earlier about cultural competency, especially from the perspective of teaching fathers and fathers of color, black fathers or brown fathers, and how to be involved, especially as we already know that blended families are really, I hate to say it, they become the norm and not the exception, with that, where we know that most of our marriages end up in divorce today. And so we have now lots of blended families. And then, I have an adoptive daughter, and those of us who reach out and then do the wonderful thing of adoption and then trying to deal with that. But when we talk about cultural competency in teaching that from a social worker perspective. Why is that so vital, especially in the midst of, we're in the trials of George Floyd and so many other things? Why is cultural competency so important if we're talking about preventing child abuse today?
Well, I don't like the term cultural competency.
Okay.
I would say more like a critical race framework.
Okay.
Really understand how social environments put people in places, environments that they live in.
Teach us.
Right. And so when I teach around community or just working with parents, well, we know fathers, at least Black and brown fathers, don't like to engage if they're unemployed.
Right. Oh, that's good.
So if they're unemployed, they already feel insecure.
Oh, come on and talk to us.
And here in the Texas region, we see that a lot. So how do we help them help their newborn or their partner? Well, get them employed, help them find a job, help them find something to create if they're not in their life, you know, as a partner, but to be there for their child. I believe in investing in elementary, like parenting laws and or policies that will invest in family from early on, right? You can't wait till a child is 5 years old and say, "Oh, I got to teach them how to parent." No,
right.
Like this financial investment has to come from the federal government to say, "Hey, we need to provide resources for parents, right, and how to teach prenatal care, what it means to have assistance." Like, we're not a welfare state by any stretch of anybody's imagination, right?
Right.
In Europe, they get a nanny. They get 6 months to a year off.
Come on.
Assistance. So we need these things to help parent because it's not easy. And so in making that investment, but also around substance use and around mental health and what it means for women who go through postpartum depression when they have a child, and to support them through that, right? This is all of a healthy development. So I think it starts early on. We have to capture that early on, and move on from a trauma framework to a healing framework.
Oh, that's good.
Right? So I think all these things, it's something that I try to teach students, because it starts with that before she even has a baby,
right?
What parenting looks like.
Now, see, we all in the studio going, teacher. I feel like I just got a credit. I got a unit, baby. I got one from Dr. Boyd at the future OSU. Go ahead, Dr. Yvette.
CEU, thank you, Dr.
Yes.
But as he was talking, what struck me I go back to when I was in school, Marty.
Right.
We had real vocational education. We had all of these classes that prepared us to have some skills if we didn't go to college. But even if we did go to college, we knew how to cook a meal. We knew how to do some things. The school system needs to bring those skills back.
Yes.
They need to add in.
Go ahead.
Can I have financial literacy instead of algebra? I'm just asking for a friend.
Well, or both or something. We need it, right?
Because again, when you think about separating the classes in terms of socioeconomic classes, Black and brown parents didn't necessarily teach their children how to invest. Didn't teach my parents. I got allowance for a short time, and then they said, "Well, we're not giving you allowance to do what you need to do because you live here for free." But don't let the money burn a hole in your pocket. What does that mean? You know, don't spend it all in one place. Okay, well, I spent it in two, so I thought I was doing it.
Right.
But the concept of saving and investing from childhood, instead of buying your child Nikes, buy them some Nike stock. You know, instead of, spending on all these big birthday parties, let's go ahead and do some things so that if if you become a parent before you deem too soon, you have some systems already in place for yourself. You have some things in place for yourself. And our education system just isn't set up to help like that.
It definitely isn't. And Dr. Boyd, you said something that I thought was very phenomenal and very eye-opening. And we all three were in the background nodding our heads like crazy that you were saying, you notice in Houston when fathers are not employed, that their involvement with whether she's pregnant, whether she's about to have, because too many, for men, our employment and ability to make money is linked so much with who we are, how we identify ourselves. And then if I identify and see myself as less than a man, then how can I be a father? Because a father is a male role. If we're saying it, if we're going just strictly gender, not going into the being politically correct. And then I don't feel like a father. So, and then I didn't already have a father modeled for me. So we have these, it feels hopeless. So how do I then, if I don't feel like a full man, if I don't feel like a father, I can't then begin to interact properly with Tobi, who is carrying my child, because I'm afraid of what she's carrying and who she's carrying. So I don't know how to be loving. I don't even know the first steps about that. And you were saying that, and Tobi, go ahead, Tobi, I see you, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so much going through my mind, but
go ahead.
You know, in the parenting I teach, it says that parents who think and feel good about themselves will usually raise kids and children who think and feel good about themselves.
Yes.
So one of the values we want people to feel better about themselves, because when we see that in their behavior and their choices. But some people had these experiences that they had no control over in the first 18 years of their lives. And the thing I love about Trauma Informed and the parenting I do is we help them to realize, like, not why am I this way, but why not? Like, you go through these things, you go through talk, success, and trauma, and you didn't, ACEs would say, well, you didn't have a healthy adult or caregiver that helped you to navigate the toxic stress. And that's where the struggles come in.
Yes.
But we need to build this resilience, because we can't change the past.
That's good.
We have, it wasn't our fault, but we can really look and see, well, I'm in charge of me now. How can I heal? Healing is a big thing for me in trauma-informed practice and this parenting, that you're okay. You weren't born bad. You didn't have any control over the first 18 years of your life, very little control. But now you can move forward. There is hope. We've been shown with the research we can relearn, we can empower ourselves and do something different, but they have to feel good about themselves in order to think I'm worth it, that I want to take that first step.
And I love it, because it really is, and always say it this way, how to stop the stinking thinking. And go from trauma, and I'm going to use, instead of hope, I'm going to use triumph. How I've now turned that trauma into triumph with that, because I love, Dr. Boyd, what you're saying. We have to start going from a healing perspective and come and stop. Yes, I may have experienced some trauma. Now, how do I heal from this trauma so I can now pour hope into my child? In those, Dr. Boyd, talk to us some more about why is that so important to change our mindset? Because I love how you're even saying that we're not talking about cultural competency, but you said help educate me again.
So I'll throw out some numbers. I'm currently working on a paper to look at community violence and how what I found was that Black youth who work hard in certain spaces or engage in activities, right? Most of the time they're working to get out of this community violence. Right. And so if you situate based off the last census, we'll know when the new one comes out, approximately 60% of Black children live in single mother headed households. That does not mean the father's not there.
Exactly.
But they're in the household with a single mother.
Right.
And so when you think of that in a violence-stricken neighborhood, right, in this environment, abuse is likely going to be reported, right? Yes. Whether it's neglect, because mom got to work 3 jobs, right? Mom might not be home. This all can be summed up as emotional. It can turn into physical, right? Daddy coming in, like all these problems just by just living in this neighborhood, right? And so you're dealing with in-house, outside house, and in your school experiences may be good or bad. That can then lead to the removal of a child, right? So I feel like resilience is like healing has to start immediately, right? Because most of us, we shouldn't have to wait till, I hate when I say this, 50 years old to say, hey, I'm trying to figure it out now. So how do we intervene with if a kid experienced trauma because just the neighborhood they live in, or neglect just because their mother worked 3 jobs? How do we say, how do we help them heal at that point and help them cope in a positive way so when they get older, they can triumph, as you said, or overcome, which is resilience.
Right.
Got to stop telling ourselves these lies. All Black people ain't resilient, right?
Ooh.
It's a difference between resilience, right? Or someone who is thriving and someone who is surviving. A lot of us are surviving. And when you say we're all resilient, then the help ain't going to come because everybody just expects you to be resilient. And that's not true. It's a lot of us who are broken now.
So how do we, as parents, and we see that, how do we ask for help? Because there's been so much shame associated with especially during even this pandemic. You know, I have people saying, I'm embarrassed to say my children are driving me crazy. No, they've been in your house. They're driving me crazy too, because I hear them in the background and we can't even have a private session for therapy. So I hear you. I'm feeling you on that one. So, but how can we make it the norm to say, I'm not okay? I need help. I'm struggling with raising my 3-year-old. I'm struggling with raising my 5-year-old. I don't know how to be a nurturing parent. I don't know how, because my mother was not nurturing to me. My father was not nurturing to me. And how do I get that I'm a bad parent? And I'm going back to you, Tobi, and then I'm going to toss it over to Dr. Yvette after that. How do we navigate and help get through that mindset of that?
Well, and Marty, it really is a process. So we would all love to see change overnight.
Right.
But in order to change our behaviors, we really have to look back to our thoughts and feelings about ourselves and look at our belief systems. And our belief systems are created part our nature, our personality, and then how all the experiences in our life act upon that. That's why everyone's so unique and different, with going through similar or different experiences and having a different outcome. So I'm very big on normalizing and that you're not alone. If we can lower the stigma, because people want to look like the perfect parent. Well, I'm sorry. I've been doing nurturing parenting for 8 years, and I still have those moments where I'm really less than perfect. But now I'm owning it. I'm okay. I'm okay knowing I've told my kids at the end of the night, well, that was not the most nurturing day. I apologize for that. And I'm going to look at what I can do differently tomorrow. But people feel that everyone's judging, but mostly we're judging ourselves, I think. And so we want to normalize it. And sometimes I just give people permission to tell me they're not okay. And they might not say it, but I say, it's okay to not be okay. And sometimes them just knowing you're not going to judge them, or you come from that perspective, they may be more willing to open up. We need to show caring and compassion and empathy and empower these parents, and that we're not the expert. They are the expert of their lives, but I have some unique stuff that we can talk about that can challenge our thoughts and our belief systems, and really work together with them as the expert on how to create a more nurturing environment for their children.
Yes. Tobi, you're getting questions. Everybody want to know, okay, what's the name of her practice? Because we need to call her. Listen, I told y'all, Tobi is the bomb.com. I've learned so much about parenting and how to do that through the nurturing parenting class. And I love it because Tobi just doesn't take, and like all of you, because I've seen Dr. Boyd, your studies, and Dr. Yvette, I know your studies, and we don't just take the curriculum and just make it cookie cutter for everyone, but we personalize it. We look at, and I love you say, the unique circumstances that those parents are going through. We so strength based. I know all of you are strength based. When I say strength based, what I mean by that is that we take the things that the parents are doing right and we celebrate that, and we give them the courage to say, this is what you're good at. Now here's some of the areas you might have some challenges with that we're here to support you in. But guess what? I have challenges in some areas too, and it's okay. It is.
Yeah, and it's a normal human experience. Being a parent is hard. I started at 33. Okay, I'm talking about 13. I started at 33. I had a college degree behind me, and I was like, I am going to do awesome. And I realized with my first child, okay, we got room to grow. And hey, what I've learned about parenting, my kids have challenged me to have to say, whoa. And I think it's about, a lot of times we want to look outward. We want to say, well, this happened to me and that happened to me. And we want to empathize. Yeah, that's awful. But that you are the expert of your life, and that when you're ready, you can take those steps. But not all parenting classes really are the same. And they're not created. One is not going to work for everybody. And a lot of them just teach skills. But when you're in trauma, when you're in stress, you don't remember skills. You remember the neurological pathway in your brain that you experienced or do. So what we need to do is reform these more positive and healthier neural pathways to be your new normal. But that involves challenging your thoughts about parenting and how you grew up, and reconciling that, and then saying, do I like this? Do I want to do this? Or do I want to do something different?
Yes. I got you. So how do they find, what's the name of your practice, Tobi?
Well, so I kind of just do a little side practice, but I'm Healing Hearts with TLC. I do have a Facebook page. I don't keep up very well, but
we'll get on. Yes.
Yes, I can. That's the name of my practice. So I'm just an independent contractor for the trauma-informed parenting. But the good thing is California, if you're in California, they have a lot. Nurturing parenting is big there. They're seeing the effects of this is out there. But yeah, Healing Hearts with TLC is my little business.
Yeah, see, doing it. Hey, the good thing, this pandemic has taught us how to be functional and being how to reach people all across the world, with that. So definitely, I told y'all Tobi's the bomb. Can we discuss this now? I want, as we're dealing, some parents who have children that might have some mental health disorders, some other development things that we may not understand, because we now have we have more kids with anxiety. We have lots of kids now with ADHD. Now, I think we're tagging that ADHD line on too many kids, so we're over-diagnosing them. And for our boys, especially our boys of color, black and brown boys, a lot of them have been misdiagnosed as conduct disorder and oppositional ODD, oppositional, that one. Defiance disorder. Thank you. I had a moment there, and so in our parenting, how do we not get overwhelmed and sometimes believe the diagnosis over our own expertise of raising that kid? And so now we are, and how does a parent who has hyperactive kids, or maybe kids who get on our nerves because they've been in our houses 24/7 and not doing what they're supposed to do, Dr. Boyd, how do we help our parents who have these type of needs? Because we just saw that Miss Cherie, she just said, my son has ADHD. I need help. Yes, go ahead. Are you muted?
I was.
Did you mute? Okay, did you mute yourself? I was like, sign language.
So first, you want to catch this early on, as you know, it's black and brown people tend to be late when it comes to searching for help, right? If you see something, you have to admit that you see something, and that it's okay that your child might have some kind of disability, but you can work through that, right? You can grow up functional with autism, but we have to catch it early. And it's okay to have multiple opinions.
Right.
what I think the more important is when a parent goes to any doctor, whether it's a mental health provider, it's okay to ask as many questions. If you do not understand, do not let no doctor tell you this is it. Go get a second opinion. I think this is very asymmetrical information happens.
Yes.
And sometimes people and parents feel like, oh, this is the doctor, they know better. That's not always the case. You know your child, right? So you have to be your advocate and you have to be your child's advocate.
Yes.
If you know what this doctor is telling you or the medication they prescribe is not working, go see another doctor.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because you've been hearing all about the racial issues in medicine, and right, even when it comes to pain, the lack of prescription, and all these different things. So always get a second opinion. When it comes to things like autism, Los Angeles does not have the best schools for autistic children.
Right.
So maybe seeking outward if you can. And if you can't afford it, California does have great services, access these things.
Can we address, I want to help Cherie out here. She was definitely talking about that. She adopted her son when he was 9. He was already diagnosed with ADHD, and now he is 11. With that. Now, what I would do in my practice, and speaking with you, Cherie, I would definitely look at, we have to look at behaviors, both at home. ADHD is so we look at behaviors at home and at school. In that, we want to also look at diet. We want to look at their being healthy and getting outside and burning off a lot of this energy. I'm all for, before we put them on meds a lot of times. Now, this is just Marty. I in California, I'm not allowed to prescribe meds or anything like that. But I want us to examine everything. I want to look at sugar. I want to look at caffeine. I want to look at their activities. I want to look at, do they feel comfortable at school? Are they getting the necessary support at school? Am I being supportive of them as well? Am I hearing them? There are just some kids who are just high-strung energy. I was one of those high-strung energy kids and probably should have been diagnosed with ADHD. But, and when they're on meds, is this the right med? Because as they grow and their chemical makeup changes, the meds might need to change. Is it too high of a dose? Is it too low of a dose? What is the cocktail, meaning multiple ones that they're giving them? We need to examine all these. Are they sleeping too much? Are they up too much? Those are lots of things we need to look at in doing that, and constantly question the doctor. Don't let them just give you a 10-minute evaluation and write it off. Love it. She says, I refuse meds. He loves sweets, though. The sugar is going to push them over the edge with that. So,
but also, Martin,
go ahead.
They bored.
Oh, that's good.
What activities are they doing?
Yes.
Right.
Dr. Yvette, I think you're muted for some reason. Come off of mute, baby, and come on and join this conversation. No, you are. Dr. Yvette was too. We're all joining this conversation. Go ahead, Dr. Boyd. You're saying, what else? Are they bored? Right.
Are they bored? What activities are they in? Are they mentally stimulated?
That's good.
And we haven't talked about youth stigma. We stigmatize youth, act like they don't know what they're talking about, what they're not feeling. Oh, I'm the parent. I know better. I know what you feel. Stop it. Listen to them. Listen to their needs. Listen to what they're trying to tell you. This is very important when it comes to trauma, when it comes to mental health, when it comes to relationship building with your child. Listen to them.
Don't Tobi, jump right in. Go ahead, Tobi.
Well, and all full disclosure, I'm a parent of 2 daughters with ADHD and anxiety. And as a helper before I had kids, I thought I knew what ADHD was. I thought I was trying to help people. Well, when I had my own child, I was like, I did not know what ADHD really meant until I lived it. But I learned a lot about it. And I think the problem is you as a parent need to decide what works best for your child.
Yes.
But ADHD is not just acting bad. It is actually a medical neurological condition.
Mm-hmm.
And if our child had diabetes, we would do those things that are necessary for that
Right.
child to help them to have the most satisfying life. And that takes some adjustments, that takes some trial and error. That's why there's a lot of feedback out there. There's a lot of suggestions, but in the end, doing your research and then you deciding what you feel is best for your child. But I always grew my kids up that this is like if someone had diabetes, I would give you
Uh-huh.
insulin if you needed it. I would adjust your diet if I needed it. I would
Right. That's
I
good.
would give you these techniques that the medicine is not a cure. The medicine neurologically just brings some kids up to that normal
That's
baseline where
good.
then they are open to instruction. We still have to specialize how we interact with individuals with ADHD. In the school, I'm constantly working with kids with ADHD and how can we make accommodations in the classroom because they're not just acting bad, they want to do good. Parents want to do good, kids want to do good. And so we need to help parents navigate that and see, well, what works best for my child? And yes, we medicate ours, but some kids may not need to be medicated and may just
Mm-hmm.
need some different techniques. But that's up for you as a parent and the child to decide what is the best approach.
Love that. Love that. And with this, Dr. Yvette, you're going to say something? Go ahead.
Sherry,
Sure.
you're not,
Yeah.
Cherie, I'm sorry, you're not going to want to hear this, but the truth is the truth. This is the time where you are going to have to stand up as the parent and control the sweets and control the screen time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because
The
that can have effect too.
screen time, especially at night. Your child is scheduled to go to bed at 9. Screens need to be off at 7, which means that now you need to interact and spend that quality time with your child. And so I'm looking at your comment. He's been through a lot. You just said
Yeah.
he moved away. He's forgetful. Baby, he's a boy. That's he's a
Not
boy.
all boys are
But
forgetful.
but what I also, this is what some of the things I tell my parents in my parenting class. You have to engage your children in contracts. And what I mean by that is if
Yeah.
you want them to do some things around the house at certain times, then allow them to create that written contract. Let him use his artistic skills and write down the things that he has to do in his own creative way and put a copy in his room and put a copy in the kitchen on the refrigerator because he's
Nice.
always going to go to the refrigerator. Okay? He's a child and that's just what they do. But you have to engage in some activities, find out their learning style. Is he kinesthetic? Does he, of course he likes to play and move, but is he also a spatial, is he a science learner, things of that nature? And you have to engage your child in those different activities. Everything doesn't always have to cost a ton of money, but you need to make some investments. And also, parents, when you get the opportunity and it's in your budget, I am all about a PPO versus an HMO.
Mm.
And then also, as we've been talking about culture in this conversation, the reality is that you as the parent and may want to have a black doctor, a black mental health therapist. You have the right on the back of your card, call member services. I need a black clinician. I need a black doctor. You want somebody that's going to be able to relate to you. And when you can, parents, get that PPO. Better to make that financial investment and sacrifice than to have the HMO and be out of there in 5 minutes and not get what you need.
Awesome, awesome, and all those are great. And again, Cherie, we're just definitely sending some things, and however, and I'm going to do a special episode very soon. Give me till May 1st about dealing with ADHD. I have my shows because we're going to deal with sexual trauma on the next episodes because April is also sexual abuse awareness, and I have some male men who have been sexually abused, and we don't oftentimes hear of male sexual abuse that's happening with that. So, but definitely we want to encourage all of you, and the whole goal is understanding. I think the purpose we're trying to give here, and I appreciate you, Sheree, understanding your children. Understanding that each child has to be parented a little bit differently. We would love to say that parenting is the same across the board, but it's not. My daughter, God bless her heart, and she hates when I say this, her love language is words of affirmation. And my son's love language is physical touch. And I have to hit him upside his head and everything. Now, he's 23, so it's not abuse. And then my daughter's is this. My 5-year-old is the same way. So is understanding the needs, the specific needs, and then also understanding when you don't have the capacity to pour into their needs. Be like, I need a day to myself, and get that support. Go ahead, Dr. Yvette.
I tell my parents in my parenting education class, you are supposed to be pouring out from the saucer, which
come on, somebody,
is overflowing. When you get to the place when you're pouring out from your cup, you're all tired. And if your cup goes down, then that means you're on the road to exhaustion. You have to take some time for self-care, because if you do not care for yourself, you do not have the capacity to care for your child in the way that they need. And that's when you have those bad days. That's when you have those issues, when you fly off the handle instead of oh my goodness, when they come home and they tell you that thing that you thought they would never tell you. And then instead of saying, wait, I need to go in my room, I need to breathe, count to 25.
Forward and backwards.
And look, and then just make a determination of what I'm going to do. I will talk with you in a few minutes. Better for you to talk with them in a few minutes.
Come on.
Fly off the handle immediately because they told you something that you thought you would never hear.
I love that.
And that's social work on
Go ahead. Right.
Exactly. And then there's a phone call because I'm a mandated reporter. And then
God. Yeah.
No,
but you're right.
Yeah, but
go ahead, Tobi.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think what's happening sometimes in society is that we all have these expectations we think society has us, these expectations that schools have of us.
Yes.
And we're all looking ways to meet these expectations that we grew up with, or that we are part of our belief system. And other people will want to tell you, you have to do this or you have to do that. But honestly, your role as a parent is to know that you are the expert. Go find the information, try different things. And if it doesn't work for your child, I never found sugar affected my child. So I didn't care. Even though people said it does, I'm like, well, not in mine, but that's okay if it does for you.
For you,
we're trying to sometimes live up to other people's expectations or ideas, but it's okay to do what you feel is best for your child, even if other people disagree with that. And, your job as a parent is to help these kids to navigate life and be prepared for the future. I always tell people, parenting is not a position of power and having to do everything. It's just a position of responsibility and to meet the needs of kids and to have empathy, a concern for what they're going through, and to say, hey, I'm here, I'm with you, and I'm going to help you. I don't always agree with what you do, but I'm here to help you, and we can do this together. I wish I knew more now that I knew back when my kids were younger, and they'll still bring up things I did, and I'm like, yeah, those were not my finest parenting moments. I said, but I hope I'm better. And they're like, oh yeah, Mom, you're much better. And I said, okay, thank you.
But you get to grow as a parent just as your children grow as well. And the goal would be that your parenting skills are much stronger now in year 5 than they were in year 1. Because as that child develops, so has my parenting skills, so has my confidence, so has my abilities. Oh my goodness, y'all, can you believe we're like out of time, and we're just getting started. This is, doesn't it go by fast, Tobi?
It does.
Yes, and I love the cup analogy. Yes, if your cup is empty, go get some more.
If your saucer is empty, because you're supposed to be running over.
I understand.
Oh.
If your saucer's empty, you already tired.
Right.
If the cup is not full, you exhausted.
You are. You are. Oh my God. So everyone wants to know, how do we get a hold of these people? They are so amazing. I agree. I told y'all, we if you have not shared this, we need a part 2. We're going to do a part 2 in the future. This was part 2, Auntie. We need a part 2. Every time we need a part 2. We're going to come back. We're going to come back. Maybe in 2 weeks I can. I already got next week's already lined up. But again, y'all, this panel is so amazing, and please share this with so many other parents. That we have definitely a deficit in talking about effective parenting. When we talk about effective parenting and give people the tools they need to be great parents so that they start believing in themselves, we then lower and we can eliminate childhood abuse. We can eliminate child abuse, so we don't have to say child abuse prevention, but we can say child recognition parenting celebration, changing the dynamics of that. Wouldn't it be amazing if we now have a parent celebration day because child abuse has been eliminated altogether? And y'all, I'm afraid when we come out of this pandemic, what child abuse is going to look like, because we now have the social workers going back out. We have the teachers going, in the classrooms and everything. And that's my fear of what that's going to look like. So maybe we need to have another part about it. Go ahead, Dr. Donte.
I just want to say one thing. I think
please,
being honest with your children is probably one of the best things a parent can do. Don't lie to them, whether it's about finances. Don't lie to them about emotions, or even if they're exhausted, say, "Hey, I'm tired." They will appreciate that.
Yes.
I did with my parents with us about everything. Sometimes you're like,
right.
Too much. But kids know. Don't lie to them. They understand.
Yes.
So I think, especially during the time of COVID, when abuse is high, when people are struggling, hungry, just being honest with your child.
I love it. I love it. Since you were talking to Dr. Boyd, how do we get a hold of you? How can these people find you, our listening audience? Because you are so bomb.com, going to OSU, doctor, professor, research, fellowship grant, you name it. But this is one of the experts, and is so proud to have a black male who is in this, who is teaching this, who's making a difference and teaching not cultural competency, but you said community engagement, I believe, in that term. So I love that.
You need a healing framework. We got to heal as people.
That's right, a healing framework. How do we get a hold of you? And if people have questions, how can they reach out to you?
You can email me at Boyd, which is my last name, boyd.465@osu.edu.
Love that. Thank you so much for joining us, and always love the conversation that you add. Dr. Harris.
Yes, sir.
How do we get a hold of you, and how can we find out more about what you're doing?
You can go on my Contact Us page at EDR4U.com.
Love that. And thank you for always your amazing contribution you have with that. And Tobi, this is your first time, but definitely will not be the last time on here, because you are so amazing. I've always loved what you've done. And I'm not going to lie, it still hurts me that you left me in here in Southern California and went to Utah.
Hard.
I know.
It was hard, Marty, because I felt like we could have gone somewhere, but it just didn't happen.
Yes.
Yeah, but so my email is, I really just do it as a side business, but my email is is healinghearts with WITHTLC @gmail.com. That's usually the best way to reach me. I can't even remember my business number because I hardly use it. But I'm more than happy to answer any questions or try to connect you if you want to do the Nurturing Parenting program. Connect you. I've thought about doing some parenting consulting,
virtual?
But I just haven't done it yet. So
love it.
Maybe people will contact me and say, help me out. And I love helping people.
Wonderful.
But parents, be kind to yourself. You're not going to be a great parent and then stay there. You're going to have days where you're not. The difference is knowing when you are not as nurturing as you could be, and then make a choice. What do I want to do with that?
You see one of your fellow students who came to says, hello,
yes,
Tobi. I remember
saw her name come up. Hi,
yes. So this shows the great work that you have done and that you're continuing to do.
I remember you.
Yes. And I think she had another child since we last spoken, but she.
Oh, wow.
And that shows you the great work that she has, because Tobi, you made a huge difference in her life, even with helping her to become this great parent, and we see it evident in that. So,
well, the expert's in her, and she's awesome. But I love helping people in the journey.
Yes,
I'm only a guide.
So again, guys, thank you so much for joining and being on here. We want to thank you. Listen, we know that this has been helpful because it has helped me just doing this. And again, my name is Martina Sellers, your mental health hygienist. We don't want you to continue to secretly suffer in silence in the shadow of shame. We've done that too long. There is hope. There is help. There is healing. And please share this with other parents that you know could benefit by this. We have a lot of work to do. And guess what? The best is yet to come in your parenting, for your children, and for your healing. But as always, we always say every week, we want you to continue to speak up, speak out, and live. Please check out our website at mentalhealthmarty.com. We also want you to, if you are to listen to our podcast. Thank you, Daryl. He's prepping me, y'all. I done lost my order on everything tonight. But Apple listeners, please subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, leave us a review, and become an iMatter member by texting iMatter to 855-717-1272 so that you can get all the latest information and updates that come out, not just from the podcast, but from our show as well. And on this coming Wednesday, we'll be dropping a new episode of our podcast, continuing this discussion on child abuse prevention. Again, as we always say, don't continue to secretly suffer in silence, but we have to change the stinking thinking. And how do we doing that? By speaking up, speaking out, and living. And as we say each week, always remember to enjoy your life. Until next time.